Hi, everyone. Hi, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Oh, goodness. So sorry. I had to hook up a cord. So let me start over. Hello, friends. Welcome to tonight's live chat. I hope you are doing well. I see that some of you are already ready to go, and I love that because we're going to jump in. I do have to wrap up at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm going to try to get us through this by 8:30 um, so that we can end at a decent time. So this is an interesting topic. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Everything looks good on my end. This is an interesting topic. Really, what did I title this? What is wrong with people who trust everyone? Okay, I'm going to change that title because let me do that real quick. Because I think the title that I updated today is a little more specific. We are talking about something that is known as relationship predators. Now, you may be saying, oh my God, I feel like I have been surrounded by family. I feel like I have been surrounded by friends. I feel like I have been in the company of people who are like predators. And that is such a depressing reality, right? Because we often we look at people as people that supposedly are mature adults. We can have communication in a relationship that is equal. It is mutually respectful and joyous for the both of us. And even with our families, we look at our families and say, we share blood. Why are we fighting? Why are we going against each other? Why are we having a hard time connecting? But the reality is there's often at the core of unstable family relationships, friend relationships, romantic relationships, job relationships, or career related relationships, at the foundation, there should be some level of trust. There should be some level of honesty. There should be some level of self respect and respect for other people's mind and their heart, right? But when you're dealing with a relationship predator in any context, right? Family, social, romantic, when you're dealing with a predator, somebody who preys on the vulnerability and the weaknesses of others, that is a scary road because you're going to bump into a lot. These kind of individuals, I'm going to give you a little bit of an outline of what they are and who they are. They tend to be, and I hate to say this because I don't want to give them any. I don't want to give this personality type any praise or any kind of legitimacy or praise, but technically these kind of predators, which I'm going to define in a little bit here, they tend to have rather high social and emotional intelligence. Think about the narcissist who is so self-centered that you can't have a mutual conversation with them. You can't get a word in edgewise. They don't seem to listen to you when you talk. They do all the talking and the dominating of the conversation. And when you bring up anything that you need, want, desire, can have, working towards, whatever, they simply don't care. Why? Because you're not important in their world. So think of that kind of a narcissist. Now, we can also add psychopaths to this. They tend to be cold, callous, dark, and very self-motivated. They don't care about your life, what you need, who you are, who you're developing to be. They really don't even care about your past and where you came from. They don't care. They're their own concern. And so if you look at those two personality characteristics, in order for them to survive in the world, they have to have a level of social and emotional intelligence. They fly under the radar of most people in society. They go under the radar. How? Because they have an ability to connect socially. They appear to be open-minded people, open-hearted people. They appear to be highly intelligent. They tend to give you what you want in a social or communication exchange, right? So they text you sometimes when they know that you may be expecting a text or wanting a text. They call you all times of the day. You're going to see in a little bit that sometimes this gets a little over the top. This is the problem, part of the problem. But they tend to have like this high energy for the relationship in the beginning stages, but then it trails off. So let me give you an example of this using a family. Your dad, who, divorced your mom so many years ago, he may want to get to know you. And he thought that you were going to slam the door shut and say, nope, I want nothing to do with you. You tend to be more mature than that. So you're going to give him a chance. You invite him out for lunch. You guys sit down, you laugh, you talk. He says, I'm really sorry that I did this to our family. I couldn't get along with your mom anymore. And maybe you started in some way to understand why your dad walked away. So now you're developing some empathy. You're developing some compassion towards him. And there's a little twinge of excitement on the inside of your heart because maybe, just maybe, I could have my dad, the dad that I've always wanted, right? So you guys go your separate ways. He hugs you and says, we need to do this again. And you say, sure, Dad, just tell me when you're ready, right? So you walk away feeling this little twinge of hope that, okay, maybe my dad's he's going to be what we need. Dad puts in all the energy during those first couple of months of just getting to know you again. He's taking you out. You guys are going to concerts. He's buying you things. He's loaning you money. He's spending time at your house with your spouse. He's taking the kids places. Everything seems so beautiful. And in your heart, you love that energy that you feel from Dad because Dad wants to be a part of this family again. And I get a chance to have my dad, right? So can you see the psychology of that? Here's what's scary. A relationship predator is going to take full advantage of that experience, right? And they know how to keep pushing that experience. That's why it's emotional and social intelligence. They just keep pushing that experience. Let's go to the movies, let's go to the beach together. Let's go out of the country together. And they just keep pushing that and they keep making you think this is going to work, right? And so there's no way the heart and mind can quite be ready for that unless you're a therapist. But there is no way that your heart and mind can be ready for a setup, right? Because now you're feeling all the excitement and all the energy and you just can't wait until you see Dad next time. The sad part about these kind of predators is this: they know how to accelerate the energy. They know how to get you hoping and happy. They know how to test the waters and see who you are. We call that boundary probing. Boundary probing. It's when that other person who's the predator in the relationship, they push the limits. They test the limits and they do it multiple times. And sometimes they kind of double the attack on you, right? So that they can see how far they can go. I'm going to explain this a little bit more in just a little bit, but they engage in boundary probing. They kind of probe, they kind of see, a little at a time. How can I get in here? How much room do I have? How much vulnerability is here with this person? How much naivety is here? How much emotional dependency and need is here? And this is what makes them a predator. They prowl, and so this dad is kind of prowling around, looking for your weaknesses, looking for a door open. And that's the scary part of a predator. They are a million miles ahead of you. And that energy at the beginning stages of the relationship is just unmatched. And so you follow it out and you keep going and you keep following it out because it's so exciting. In this scenario, Dad later, 6 months later, 8 months later, 12 months later, maybe 14 months later, Dad starts to get tired, right? And so he kind of pulls away, emotionally detaches. Maybe he starts isolating a little bit. Maybe he starts the withdrawal just a little bit. And so now you're not getting those phone calls as much. Now you're not hearing from him as much. Now you're not feeling as secure because Dad feels like he's slipping from you, right? And so in that process, you may find yourself feeling duped. Like, what just happened here? Right? And so the high social and emotional intelligence of your dad is what got you here, because he knew what you wanted. He knew what you needed. He knew what you were looking for. He found what a lot of relationship predators find, which is cracks in your character and cracks in your defense. Consider how, I'm going to use the example of a basement wall. Consider a cellar wall, a basement wall. If you have those old fashioned basement walls, they have different places that looks okay, but if you look a little close, you can see there's some cracks. There's some, water that has kind of come in through the cracks. You see a water line, you see a few cracks on that basement wall, and that because of those cracks, your foundation is going to be disturbed, because water is going to seep through at some point, and you are going to be faced with the bill. And that is really the relationship of a predator in our lives, right? That's how predators engage in relationships. They see you as a basement wall, and they know that all basement walls have vulnerabilities somewhere, even in finished basements. And they know that there's a crack somewhere. And if they can just locate that crack, right? That defense, that vulnerability, that weakness, that desire for love and affection and engagement, if they could just find that crack in the basement wall, bingo, they've got what they need. And so they then get in, they get money, they get affection, attention, praise. Maybe they get a better reputation. Maybe they can have a life that they've always wanted. Whatever the case is, it is often a manipulative kind of a dynamic, and you end up feeling duped. Sorry, guys, let me get a sip of tea. Excuse me. You end up feeling duped, and that is just terrifying, right? Those are the kind of relationships, family, social, career-based, whatever. It's the kind of relationship where you say, oh my God, how did I miss this? Right? And it's only when your heart feels that pain that you pump the brakes and you say, wait a minute, I remember that was wrong. That was wrong. That was a red flag. That was off, right? We've all been there. Now, if I go back to boundary probing is testing the limits to see how far they can get with you. And boundary probing is kind of evil and dark in and of itself, because what the person is doing is, they seem quote unquote normal at the time, but the more you talk to them or engage them or invite them over or whatever you're doing with them, they push a little further. Maybe I'll ask you, are you married? Let me ask you why you decided to go into the career you're in. Let me ask you why you're estranged from your family. Let me ask you why you got so many divorces in the past. What do you think it is? If they answer any one of those questions, then I know the door is open for the next set of questions. And then once I get through that second door, then I'm going to try to get through the third door, and the list goes on. And so dark, evil thinkers do this, that they kind of take advantage of your immediate kindness or your naivety at times, maybe your emotional needs, and they already have things lined up. You don't know it though. You just think you guys are just going naturally through the relationship and trying to get to know each other. Or if it's a family relationship, you just feel like that's my family. Why should I fear telling them things about me? But that's what predators take advantage of. The fact that you are open, you are telling them things, you are seeing the relationship as you're seeing it. So they engage in boundary probing. Also, they look to exploit your vulnerability and the vulnerabilities of other people. And if you think about it, if you're looking with a pair of binoculars, for example, for the door to exploit someone, that's a constant job, because you're constantly looking, the predator is constantly looking for that crack that they can get in, for that door that they can push through, for that little small area that they can kind of exploit you. I can exploit you and use your money. I can exploit you and use your reputation. I can exploit you and take things off of you. Whatever the case may be, they're in constant mode of exploitation, and they know how to get there. And they get there through a process known as grooming. Grooming. I'm going to type this in the description box for you. Grooming. Grooming is the process by which a person who is a predator, they desensitize you to what is wrong. They desensitize you to what is wrong. When I worked in a male residential treatment facility, I had to take over as the supervisor of the male residential facility because of different therapists coming in and out of the facility. So my supervisor at the time said, I really need you. Can you please supervise the all boys residential treatment facility? You know, I do this all the time to myself. I say, sure, not a problem. And so I went over to get to know the boys. It was 17 boys on one unit. They all had their own bedrooms. They all had their storyline. They all had a history of sexual abuse and sexual molestation of a sibling. And all 17 of these boys were violated at one time. And all 7 of these boys violated a child at one point. And so I remember sitting up against a wall in group therapy with these boys. And I asked them the question, how did you, part of the therapy that was being used on that facility was cognitive behavior therapy. So we're going to change the way that you see things, the way that you think, the way that you process things. But we're also going to engage in some acceptance and some psychological and emotional commitment here. Acceptance that this is what has happened to you, and acceptance that this is what you have done to them. And so part of the psychology was to really tease apart their thought process, their step-by-step thought process. And so I remember asking one of the boys in the group, how did you, number one, process how you were going to maneuver sexually abusing and molesting your sibling? What crack in the wall did you find that allowed you to be able to sexually molest your sibling? And one of the boys raised their hand and said to me, I watched my parents' work schedule. And both of his parents were high-powered attorneys in the area. He said, I watched my parents' work schedule for about 2 months. He said, and when I realized they were coming home after 11 p.m. at night, I knew that that was my opportunity. I scheduled my time to violate my sibling between 9:30 and 10:30 before my parents could get there. And I says, well, how did you keep her from telling mom and dad? And he says, I threatened her that I would burn the house down with her in it if she ever told mom and dad that I've been molesting her. And I remember looking at all the boys in the group in amazement, because I wasn't that experienced as a therapist at the time. I maybe had 5 years under my belt, and that's not enough time to really become an expert. It's just not. So I just, it boggled my mind. And I couldn't help but feel this somewhat level of resentment towards him, because he plotted and thought through every single maneuver. So it was extraordinarily premeditated. And I remember explaining to the group of boys that your behavior is called grooming. Grooming. It's a process by which you show affection, you talk to the child, you develop trust, you develop what we call rapport, you develop a sense of mutual trust, you develop a common ground, right? She likes Winnie the Pooh. I'm going to talk about Winnie the Pooh. She likes Batman. I'm going to talk about my interest in Batman. So you find in the grooming process that equal playing field where the both of you can then meet up and connect, and you can say, we like the same things. And what does that do? It builds another layer to that relationship, right? And so grooming is very sneaky. And a lot of relationship predators use it. They learn you. They build trust with you. That's step 2. They process the pros and cons of overstepping boundaries. Sometimes, not always. And then they execute. They execute. And their execution is desensitizing you over a long period of time so that the next move will be an accepted one. Or once they act in their predatory behavior towards you, you will be too terrified and shocked and traumatized to say anything, because this is the person who has just built a very firm relationship with me. How could this be? So grooming is dark. To me, it is one of the most evil pieces of a person who is a predator, because you never see it coming unless you're experienced. Then you can kind of say, you know what, I recognize this. But other than that, guys, it's easy to go over your head. Okay, one last thing before I go to the chat box is these kind of individuals fly under the radar, and they fly under the radar because they are able to use their charm, their social and emotional intelligence, as well as their suave character, smart character, attractiveness, whatever gets you. They know how to use that to fly under the radar, unnoticed and unlabeled. So if they do something to you, can you turn to Billy? Can you turn to Bob and say, this is what Jim is doing to me? Probably not, because Jim has flown under the radar for many years and he's unlabeled. And so who are you to come against him, right? And so this is how a relationship predator kind of plants their seed, and they know how to twist and turn things and manipulate things. And there you are standing there saying, oh my God, I have literally been robbed, right? We're going to talk tonight about common behaviors briefly. I'm going to give you some tips on what you need to kind of swim through this maze with these kind of people. And then I also want to highlight how this impacts you. And we're going to go back to this just very briefly, guys, okay? Because I want to give you some insight on avoidant personality disorder and dependent personality disorder, because both disorders are likely to become a problem over time if you have had a parent like this, a grandparent who raised you like this, if you have had a sibling like this, if you experience this predatory behavior over a series of incidents, years, the list goes on, it is likely that you could develop an avoidant personality. You can develop a dependent personality disorder and really have a hard time functioning. Okay, guys. All right, let me go to the beginning. I'm going to skim through this, okay? A and B, hello, welcome to tonight's live chat. I'm glad to see you back tonight. Jessica J, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Sun and Sunflowers, a Fairy Girl, Coral Sky, Lore Fit, Ann Pulsar, James McDonald, Force of Living, and Axe to Edge. Hello and welcome to all of you. So glad to see you in tonight's live chat. No, you didn't. I know you didn't, Axe to Edge, or maybe I missed it. I'm sorry if I missed it. Lil Johan. All right. Hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Always glad to see you. Anime Girl 1609091. Hello and welcome. Glad to see you tonight. Jermaine. Hello, my friend. Good to see you. Christina LZ. It's been a little while. Good to see you tonight. James McDonald says, trust no one until they earn it. Toxic family dynamics taught me this tough lesson. Yeah. I think you should trust no one until they give you a reason to trust them. I very much agree with that. Actually, Jovial, hello and welcome. Glad to see the excitement and glad you're here tonight. Raymond Vincent Garcia, good to see you. Welcome back. All right, we're going to keep moving. Lil Johan says, my family is immature. I can't win for you to get I can't wait for you to get a book, so I can get the audio version. That's so awesome. Thank you so much. I am an author. I'm published. I'm contracted with a publishing company. I just haven't had the energy. That's the honest to God truth. I haven't had the energy to propose another book to them, to my publishing company. And maybe I should. I just need to get the energy. My first book was written with them back in 2020, I believe. And the book was at least 2 years of a work of art. And between me and the editing department and me and the department of just trying to make sure everything is said right and said, culturally correct. The list goes on. Working with my acquisitions director, it was so much. Oh my God. But Lil Johan, okay, I may get a chance to propose a new book, and we might just write a new book. I don't know. I'm praying about it. I'll put it that way. I'm going to pray about it and see. Jessica J. Blessings to you. I'm glad you're here. Hope you're doing okay. Tammy Nicely, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Jermaine is agreeing with James McDonald. Sorry, I thought I skipped you. Who did I skip? I'm going to put you back up here, Lil Johan. Thank you so much for that. And I'm so glad that this channel has been so helpful to you. And I appreciate you for continuing to support it. I really do. Jessica J says, love the shirt, Tiara. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My mom loves it. I put it on today because I was literally doing gardening. And then I came back in and I thought, you know what? I'm going to wait till I leave YouTube. So I kept this on. And my mom is like, could you have bought a better shirt that is you? She's like, that is totally you. So thank you. She loves this too. I was surprised. MS says, so nice to see everyone tonight. Happy Saturday. Again, I relate to this topic. It's a sad reality that many of us have these type of family members. Yes, isn't it, MS? And thank you so much for that. I figured you guys would like the shirt. Remember, I told you I had it. So I'm like, I better put this on tonight so they don't think I'm just pulling their leg, But MS, it is a sad reality that we all have these, most of us seem to have these kind of relationships. My mom used to explain it to me in a way that made a lot of sense to me. And my late grandfather, who was a pastor for over 45 years, he taught it to us this way as well, which is we are all kind of, in a sense, broken and falling human beings, right? And so if you think about rebel, if you think about how it looks when there's a demolition, right? And everything comes crashing down, all the dust and the dirt settles. You can really see what's under the dirt and the rubble. And, you can see the broken pieces of the puzzle a little clearer when the dust settles, right? And so my grandfather and my mom used to say that we are fallen people. We are hurting people. We are also people that are not as connected to a foundation as we think we are. We often end up in a space where life just kind of takes us, right? And so we have no control over the relationships we're getting into sometimes. We have no control over being able to foresee problems in those relationships sometimes. And we most definitely cannot choose our family members. So we are really just kind of trying to clear all the dust and the dirt so that we can see. But this is happening every single day of our lives in some capacity. And so MS, when you say it's unbelievable or it's just sad to see that we all can in some way relate to this, it reminds me of what my grandfather and my mom used to say, that, every day we're trying to work through all of the dust and we're looking for it to settle. But unfortunately, every move we make in life is going to have some impact, and we may find ourselves in the same battlefield relationships that we just came out of. You know what I mean? So somewhere we're all going to be in a cycle where we're all kind of having the same universal experience, if that makes sense. So, but it is interesting to see how many people go through this and they're on this channel, right? Yeah. Yeah. The Good Glow, hello and welcome. Good to see you. And thank you for just how you introduce the topic and how you encourage people to get ready for the chat. I just love it. Thank you so much for that, the Good Glow. I think all of you should know when you are appreciated. Okay, James McDonald says, under the smile of my mother was a seething resentment. She wanted to project and take out on me unless I'd done her favors that would benefit her in some way, shape, or form. Yep, manipulation. That is the predator mindset, that I am going to maybe give a little bit, but I'm looking for you to give me back tenfold, or I'm going to look like I'm on your side, but that's because I need something from you. And once I get it, goodbye. Nice knowing you. Thank you for your time, your energy, your sweat, your tears, your blood, you know? And some people are just like that. And it's so ugly, right, guys? Sun Farrar, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. And Pulsar says, so basically they're grooming you. Yes. We probably got to that around the same time, didn't we? You said it. I said it. Yep. Anime Girl 16091 says, I think my brother did that boundary probing to take advantage of me, to put me down. Most likely. How far can I go? So I'm going to test that boundary, I talk about boundaries all the time on this channel, guys. Give me 1 second. And excuse me. Boundaries for mental health professionals are extraordinarily important, because we do so much emotional work, you know, that you have to make sure, especially with the opposite sex, especially with children, sometimes teenagers, depending on the kind of teenagers that you're seeing, you really do have to be careful in how you initiate and maintain the relationship. You know, like, I'm not going to go into my workplace, for example, dressed with tight legging jeans on, high heels, okay, a shirt that shows cleavage, you know, my hair out and voluptuous, and meet with a teenage boy who has problems being appropriate every day of his life, right? So that's a boundary violation. You know, it's like, you know good and well you shouldn't be dressing this way, and you're in a role of authority at that. A boundary crossing could be this. It could be, I know that boy is coming in for therapy, for example. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to ask him about his personal life. I am going to tell him that I have an attraction to him, but nothing can ever come of it. And in addition to that, I'm going to schedule his appointments at a time when nobody else is in the office. That is a boundary. It's a boundary crossing, excuse me. The person knows, the therapist, the professional, the attorney, whoever it is, they know that their behavior is not correct, period. It is wrong. But they also know that a boundary crossing is not a violation. So they can kind of get away with this, right? It scrapes the boundary line. I'll put it that way. It scrapes the boundary line. You know, it's nothing inappropriate per se going on, because we can pass this off as something else. So that's why it's a boundary crossing. It's like you're right on the line of being completely inappropriate, and you're going to tip your foot over just to kind of get a little bit of experience, and then you're going to step back, you know? And so that could be seen as a boundary crossing. And again, that boundary violation says, I don't care. I'm going full force. I'm going to test your boundary. And so predators do this. And unfortunately, professionals do it. So-called professionals. They've cloaked themselves with a title and a degree and some certifications and a badge. And while they're cloaking themselves, they're doing all the dirty work. And in my local area, a teacher just went to jail and is now on trial for molesting 5 kids that were in his grade. They were in his class. And what he would do was talk to them after class, find them on Roblox, if you guys are familiar with that. The only reason I know is because I counsel kids. But he would find them on video games. He would give them friend requests, and he became very inappropriate. So he is a teacher, and he was trying to work his way to become principal of the school. But in the meantime, he's engaging in a variety of boundary violations and boundary crossings. And so Anime Girl 16091, that very well could have been your brother. You do want to try to determine, is this a boundary crossing or a boundary violation? And what was his goal in that? It's very, very disturbing. Jacqueline Fuller, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat, and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing your screen name, so it's good to see you. M and L Odell, hello and welcome back tonight. Good to see you. Sammy, good to see you as well. Hope you're doing okay tonight, or wherever you are. Thank you so much. I love helping you guys, and I love helping myself, because here's what happens. I give you guys things to kind of help you process and think, learn, grow, and become educated to it. But then you guys teach me as well. When I go back to the chat box, after we sign off, you teach me things. So there I am learning things about how you think and how you feel and how you're seeing things. So it's like a mutual thing, Don One, good to see you. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday. Child of Love, hello and welcome. I love that. That's really nice. All right. And welcome to the channel as well. I don't remember seeing you. Okay, let me keep moving. I want to get a few people in here, then we'll go back to the content. Lorefit, here you are. I'm gonna click on yours. So Lorefit says they don't care. You absolutely right. It's sad and a blessing at the same time. Oh well, at least you know what and who you are dealing with. Yeah, that is true. That is true. For those of you who watch Judge Judy, very much like my sibling and my mom does. Sometimes, we're all watching and we're sitting and just kind of engaging with each other and talking and just enjoying family company. And, I'll be the last one to the party because I'm working or I'm on YouTube or I'm doing something. So usually when I'm done with work, I'm walking by and I hear Judge Judy say, I'm just asking you all these questions because I'm trying to figure out who I'm dealing with here. Now I know who I'm dealing with here. Now I know who I'm dealing with. And that is exactly how she says it. And I remember walking by thinking, that is kind of wise, Judge Judy. I'm with you on that one. Because what she's saying is I've got to ask you a bunch of questions so I can draw this picture of you, because I've only got a, snap second or a few minutes before I have to dismiss your case or engage your case. And so I need to figure out who I'm dealing with here. So Lord Fit, you're exactly right on that. Sometimes it is quote unquote good that you kind of see who they are, even though it's a painful reality. At least you know exactly what you're dealing with, right? Child of Love, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for that heart. That's really sweet. Okay. Let me keep moving, guys. Sun and Sunflowers, did I say hello to you? I'm going to say it again. Hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. T Bunny Shy, good to see you. Excuse me. Good to see you back tonight. Dry spot again. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. Let me keep moving here. I want to make sure I get a good number of you in, and then we're going to go back to the content. Kim Matthew, good to see you. I love that. Happy healing. I hope you're having a good Saturday. All right, we're going to keep going. Mel, hello and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you, so good to have you. Mel says, this is so interesting and healing. I hope we all heal. Yes, me too. I always feel like knowledge is not only power, but knowledge is also healing. Because the more you know about the circumstances that you've been in, are in, or may find yourself in, the more you can heal and the better things are for you down the road. That's kind of my motto, if you will. Motto. Okay. Red Milla Rickson. Hello and welcome. Good to see you and welcome to the channel. Glad to have you live tonight. I hope I said your name correctly. Redmilla says, oh my, that's terrible. Yes. Yes, absolutely. You're referring to something I probably said. Yeah. Axe to Edge says, that's my family. Why should I fear telling them anything about me? The story of Joseph and his brothers. But people say that Joseph was stupid, boastful for sharing the dream. For those of you who are not aware, this is in the book of Genesis, in the King James Bible or the NIV, the New International Version. And I used to love and study the story of Joseph as the son of what did they say? He had a was it a coat of many colors? He had like this royal cape or coat that his father had entrusted him with. And he was the younger sibling. He was the favored one. And I believe it was, correct me, Axe to Edge if I'm wrong, he had 3 older brothers, right? And Joseph was sharing that he had a prophetic dream that showed that he was on top in a sense, and his siblings were kind of on a lower level, if you will. And his brothers looked at him in envy and said, how dare you boast yourself, above us? And they kind of plotted his death and his murder. But what's interesting is instead of him dying and instead of him being ousted and ostracized, God caused him to rise and he became a powerful, powerful leader at the, closer towards the end of his life. So for those of you who aren't aware of what Axe to Edge is saying, that's what they're getting at. And I guess you can see it that way, right? Yeah. If the shoe fits, wear it, right? Maybe that is what's happening, in your family. Okay. Thank you, Fairy Girl. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, let's keep moving, guys. Amy 999, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Christina LZ says, I'm sorry. How did you go from a child finding a perfect time to abuse the other to grooming? He was plotting, not grooming. He was plotting, and plotting is grooming. It really is all the same, and it can happen side by side, premeditation, plotting, grooming. You have to premeditate in order to groom. You have to plot in order to groom. And it all comes together at the end. And it's so despicable. So despicable. D Fitz, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. D Fitz says, this is exactly what my ex-fiance did to me. Fit loved me to get everything she possibly could out of me. Yes. Absolutely. The Good Glow says, I'm sorry you had to go through that, by the way. You almost feel discarded, like trash on the side of the road, don't you? It's so ugly what they do. The Good Glow says, in some cases, do narcissist parents groom their children? Maybe I mean conditioning, but it all feels the same. Is there a difference? Yeah, I think narcissistic parents can condition their children over time. They can also model, which can reinforce certain behaviors in the child. Narcissistic parents are known for kind of lording themselves over other families, using their kids to do bigger and better things than other kids in the neighborhood, than other kids in the family, than other kids in the neighborhood. And in a way, it does condition that child over time to believe the lie that they are better than other people, or even to believe that their parents are so wonderful, almost like a god in a sense, So yes, it can be conditioning. It can be a form of grooming. It can also be a form of modeling. And it's a very dark, evil thing. Okay, one more comment. Jeremy Robinson, hello and welcome. Always glad to see you in a chat. Jeremy Robinson says, or if they're like me, I like video games. A predator would use video games as a way to get someone to like me. Absolutely. 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 They feel like if you like Minecraft, my kids talk to me so much about Minecraft. I am Minecraft out. Okay. But just this week alone, you know what I mean? But that's an interesting place for a predator to go and just groom you. Right. And sometimes Most people who are playing video games are lonely, or sometimes they have a disability, or sometimes they're just fed up with life and they want to take a break and they want to feel something else besides daily pain. And so a predator will definitely go to a video game chat room, a video game, and play and talk with you, and then try to get your phone number, maybe come visit you, and boom, something is wrong there, you know? All right, Jeremy Robinson, I'm going to go back to the content on this one. Let's talk about the common behaviors. What's common? I've seen this in clinical and residential treatment facility. Let me start over with that. I have seen this in clinical and residential treatment settings. That's what I'm trying to say. And research also backs this up. And here's what's highlighted. Common behaviors of these kind of predators includes being a good listener, manipulation of your mind, and claims to be someone who is just looking for a friend, someone who just wants the family to get along, someone who just wants a connection with another human being. And then they charm their way to the top. They charm their way to the top. So the first one was a good listener. Remember, most predators have pretty good social and emotional intelligence. They have to, so they can manipulate you. So they are good listeners. You may feel like they are holding on to everything that you're saying, right? You may feel like, they are repeating back to you what you're saying and sounding as if they're listening to you. But that is a part of the predator engagement in the relationship. I'm going to make you feel heard. I'm going to make you feel understood. But I have an ultimate goal by doing so. They charm their way to the top. They don't work hard. They don't have to worry about anything. They can just act the part, be a little bit pushy and charm their way to the top. And they are okay. They are obviously groomers. We talked about that one. There's definitely a violation of loyalty and a violation of trust with these people. This is a common behavior. The engagement of violating the boundaries, the trust, and the loyalty of other people. I'm in a marriage. Well, I'm going to violate that marriage. I'm going to violate those vows. I'm going to violate those boundaries. And I'm going to go over here and have a relationship over here. And you may not find out that I've been dating Kathy for the past 10 years while I've been married to you for the past 10 years, right? So there's always a violation of loyalty. There's also this, how do I want to say this? There's an overwhelming high number of texts from these kind of predators, emails from these kind of predators, and voicemails. They like to call and text and send long emails. Why? Because it's wearing you down. They're looking for cracks in your character. They're looking for cracks in your defense mechanisms. They're looking for vulnerability that they can exploit. And so they overwhelmingly send you a variety of messages in hopes that it makes you tired, in hopes that it weighs you down, They also have the goal of isolating you from people who know them well. I'll go back over that. They like to isolate you from people that know them well. So people have been harmed by this predator. The predator is going to try to keep you away from them. The predator is also going to try to keep you away from those friends in your life, those parents in your life, maybe those children in your life who tells you that they don't like that person. They sense something's wrong. Something's not right here. When you find yourself kind of saying, you know what, I don't care about what you guys are saying. I'm still going over here. That is when the problem sets in, because the grooming and the manipulation has started and it has won. And that is a bad reality, right? There's also a sense of entitlement with these kind of individuals. They feel entitled to take you over. They feel entitled to bump you out of the way so they can get what they want. They feel entitled to manipulate you to get what they want and to prowl, Prowling is evil. It's like slowly looking around and tiptoeing and stepping to see if you can find something that you can use against the person that you are aiming for. And that is a very dark, depressing reality. But there are some people that do that. They just tiptoe around. They prowl around like the deers in my backyard do. Oh, I can't stand those deers. I love deers. They're beautiful. But the ones in my neighborhood, the ones where I live, are absolutely insane. They are a pack of thugs. Okay. Sometimes I have cameras on my property, and sometimes I have a camera that shows back into the woods. Okay. Don't ask me why. I'm not going into all of that. But at night, my camera will go off and I'll say, wait a minute, let me check the cameras. And I look at the camera and there's a deer. And I've literally yelled at him in the past. Don't come after me for saying that, because I was new to the neighborhood, just put up this wonderful, immaculate looking garden. And he came by one night and literally tore it to shreds, you know? And so he was tiptoeing one night, trying to get to my half torn to shreds garden that he tore up earlier that day. And I said, don't you come back here. And, you know, he just kind of looked like, she's talking to me. And I swear he understood everything I was saying. So now what he does, because my camera has a light on it, so when he walks by, my light shines and he knows you're in trouble because she's coming out here. And so what he does, maybe I can show it to you guys one night if you just want to laugh. He tiptoes. It looks like he tiptoes. Okay. And he knows, if I could just tiptoe past that camera with that bright light, that lady won't come out, you know? And so when I think of prowlers, I think of sneaky, tiptoeing people who just try to get under the radar, under your eye view, under your camera, so that they won't be seen. And so predators engage in prowling. They have to tiptoe. They have to question. They have to figure out, can I go here? Should I wait? Can I go there? Should I wait? They are very much premeditating creatures, because that is just who they are. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is the impact on me if I'm in a relationship with somebody like this, or, you know, I'm friends with someone like this, or this is my coworkers and boss, or this is my parents that are the predators? How does this impact me? The first way is feeling supervised constantly, not loved, not cared about, not respected, but supervised. There's an erosion of trust, as we talked about yesterday, an erosion of trust. You know, how can you continue to hold on and trust when the predator is grooming you, when there's boundary probing, you know, when there's a constant looking for cracks in the system, you know? And that is really a scary, sad thing. You know, you should not feel like you have to keep yourself guarded at all times, but this is what they do. This is how they are, you know. There's emotional confusion that you could be experiencing, because in your heart, you thought you understood them. In your heart, you didn't think they would ever do A, B, and C. In your heart, you were just hoping that they would go that way and not that way, right? And so the predator disappoints you often because they're not what you want or need them to be. They play a role, they play it well, and it might end sooner than you expected. And so there could be a lot of emotional confusion. There could also be a distortion of reality. You can't really trust your vision. You can't really trust your intuition, because the predator has stomped on your toes so much and so hard that it's hard for you to truly deal with reality, because you don't know what to believe. And there's tons of emotional confusion. So what does that do? It causes a distortion of reality. You may also recognize that you have triggered guilt and shame. A predator can trigger guilt and shame. They can build it into you, especially when they're grooming you. And you look back and you say, you know what? Why didn't I step up? Why didn't I say no? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I say that? And then you start to feel blame and shame and guilt all together. And so they trigger you. So you may find that even though you're not with the predator anymore, or you've got no contact, whatever the case may be, they still have an impact on you in some fashion. So you can feel that guilt and that shame and that blame just triggered over and over again. There's an emotional dependency or an emotional avoidance. And this is where we're going to just briefly go to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for those of you who feel like maybe you have a dependent personality or an avoidant personality. Now, emotional dependency it basically shows, I'll put it that way, that an individual is full of fear, anxiety, or they are confused on what their power is, and they have low self-esteem. So it's hard for them to maneuver where they should be in life. A predator in a relationship builds emotional dependency. How are they going to keep you bound to them? Emotional dependency. How are they going to manipulate your mind and your heart? Emotional dependency. How are they going to get you to trust them? Emotional dependency. And over time, if you are in a family like this, you can, they can earn your trust of them. You are loyal to them. They hurt you. You feel hurt, but then you forgive them and they do it again and again and again. And that builds over time some emotional dependency. And so dependent personality disorder is, I'm going to put this in the description box, dependent personality disorder. Okay. Dependent personality disorder is a pathological need and total reliance upon another human for major or minor decisions. It's a pathological need for somebody else. Here's an example. Should I brush my teeth now or when I go to bed? Right before I go to bed? I don't know. I wish I had somebody that can help me decide. If I brush my teeth now, I may want to eat something which is going to get in the way. But if I brush my teeth now, then I probably won't be hungry for something, so I probably won't eat. And here's what a dependent personality will do. Turn to grandma and say, Grandma, what do you think I should do? Grandma says, I think you should do A, B, and C because of A, B, and C. And you say, perfect, thank you so much. Another example of dependent personality disorder is I constantly need somebody to be with me 24/7 to help me make decisions, to help me be independent, to help me make the right choices, to help me go a certain way, because I will stay stuck on a specific problem. I will stay stuck on a specific mentality of a specific emotion because I don't know how to move out of this. I need somebody else to tell me what to do. I need somebody else to help me understand this because I can't see it on my own. The reality is they are held bound by a very intense kind of anxiety. So here's the diagnostic criteria for dependent personality disorder. It's a pervasive and excessive need to be taken care of that leads to submissive and clingy behavior. Submissive and clingy behavior. I have an adolescent like that now. They developed a dependency on grandpa, and grandpa did everything, brushing her teeth until she hit the age of 15. You heard that right, 15. Not 5, not 6, not even 7, 15. So he was brushing her teeth at 12, brushing her teeth at 13, 14, 15, right? And he was bathing her. He was telling her bedtime stories when she was 13, 14, 15. He was really engaging himself in her life in a way that was very inappropriate. And so when he passed away, life for her was tremendously difficult. Why? Because she developed a submissive and clinging behavior and fears of separation by her early adulthood. Fears of separation. Now, a person that has dependent personality disorder, they have difficulty making decisions in everyday life. There's an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. An excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others that's desired and needed. They need others to assume responsibility for major areas of their life. I need you to assume the responsibility of me deciding to have a child, to get married, to become a wife and a parent, the list goes on. They have difficulty initiating projects or doing things on their own, right? So they're not very independent. They go to excessive lengths to obtain nurturance and support from others. They feel uncomfortable or helpless when alone because of exaggerated fears. They urgently seek out another relationship as a supportive care and support, as a source of care and support when there's a divorce, there's a breakup, there's something, right? And there is an unrealistic preoccupation with fears of being left to take care of things for themselves. So there's an unrealistically preoccupied. Oh my God, I'm messing this up, guys. I need to get ready to sign off. I'm so tired. Let me go back over that. There is an unrealistically preoccupied sense or feeling that causes them to fear that they are going to be left to make decisions on their own. So there's this preoccupation with this fear that they're going to be left to take care of things on their own. And so that is a dependent personality. And it's a disorder because it disrupts everything. It disrupts everything. Now, another disorder that you could possibly acquire, aside from dependent personality disorder, is avoidant personality disorder. And avoidant personality disorder, in a nutshell, is I avoid relationships, social connection, emotional connection. I avoid all of that. I avoid every last, relationship or thing that has anything to do with social connection. Not because I don't want it, but because I don't feel I have the capacity to navigate it. So dependent personality is a pervasive pattern. It is social inhibition. It is feelings of inadequacy. It is hypersensitivity to a negative evaluation of others, or from others, excuse me. So it's this hypersensitivity to a negative evaluation of self from others. I don't want to be judged. I'm terrified. I don't want anybody to see my hair because it looks terrible. I don't want anybody to believe or see that I am overweight, right? And I am preoccupied by that sense of fear that I have of other people's judgment. So I'm going to isolate. I'm going to withdraw. There's an avoidance of occupational activities that involves interpersonal contact, criticism, disapproval, or rejection. This is avoidant personality. There is an unwillingness to get involved with people unless they are certain they will be liked. So they save themselves the embarrassment. If I feel that I'm not going to be liked by you, forget it. Forget it. They show restraint within intimate relationships because of a fear of being shamed. So they kind of hold themselves back in a relationship, and you kind of feel like you're not opening up to me, There's a preoccupation with being criticized or rejected. There's an inhibited interpersonal, I should maybe put it this way, that most people with avoidant personality disorder, they become inhibited when it comes to relationships. They don't reach out. They don't share their interests. They don't offer lunch. They don't invite you to dinner. They don't do any of that. They hope that you, as the other person, will reach out to them if you are interested, but they're not going to do it. They view themselves as socially inept, personally unappealing, or inferior. Okay. And they tend to pass stringent tests, to kind of, what's the word that I want to use here? To make sure that I'll put it this way, they are using these stringent kind of quote unquote tests to make sure that you are actually going to pass, right? Or that they're going to pass the test, that they are likable, that they are lovable, that they are acceptable, and then they will open up to you. But they're not going to open up to you any other way. So avoidant personality disorder, let me put that in the description box for you. Avoidant personality disorder is avoidance of social situations or relationships. Relationships due to a fear of being disliked, unaccepted, or unacceptable, or harmed in some way. So avoidant personality disorder and dependent personality disorder, they both have a criteria that can cause difficulty in relationships because of possibly growing up with people who engage like predators, prowl like predators. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them feel transparent or too seen, manipulated. You know, it's a place of fear and anxiety. It can really get you stuck when you have a relationship with a predator, whether that's family, friends, sometimes even neighbors or people that you work with. This is a lot, right, guys? Let me briefly give you just a few tips, okay? I'm going to give you 6 of them. You're dealing with people like this. I find self-compassion is helpful. Self-compassion. I will post a link to a book on self-compassion if you want to learn more about that. You also have to build introspection. So build over time this inquisitive nature within your mind that says that I am now inquiring about my heart. I'm inquiring about my mind. I'm inquiring about that exchange between the two of us. And I need to understand what is exactly going on here. So you have to become introspective. You also want to reject the dynamic of power differentials. A predator is going to try to be way up here and keep you here, because they want a power differential where they are above you. So what you want to do is reject that power differential, bring it up that you guys are on the same level. Make sure that you communicate with that person as if you're on the same level. You don't want them to back you into a corner because of fear and anxiety, and you become this weak, kind of broken down vessel, right? So you want to reject that idea of there being a power differential. And you want to have discernment, you want to have insight, and you want to be able to reflect. So build discernment. What am I sensing on the inside that is telling me about this place, this thing, this person? You know, that alone is going to help you build personal insight into what's going on all around you and within your heart, mind, and soul. And you really want to aim for healthy cohesion in relationships, right? We're coming together as one together. And we're doing this because it's a healthy thing, right? So you want healthy cohesion, not codependency. You want healthy cohesion and not codependency. Okay, so you want to learn what those two differences are. And lastly, in this category, you want to use what we call proactive boundaries, not reactive. Proactive boundaries says, I am implementing this plan ahead of time. I know what I'm going to say, what I'm not going to say, what I'm going to do and not going to do. And I have an idea as to what my boundary is. And I have stood firm on that. And I'm going to continue to do that ahead of any problems that may ensue. That's why it's called proactive boundaries. You're putting those boundaries in place before a problem arises. Reactive boundaries are a little tricky because those are boundaries that you click into place in the relationship after something happens, right? After the 9,000 text messages, you finally put up a boundary and block them. You know, you don't want that kind of boundary. You want proactive boundaries. All right, guys, let me go to the chat box and wrap up because I'm like 10 minutes late. I should have been wrapped up. This is a lot, right, guys? It takes your mind through all these exercises. You're going to probably have to watch this again to grasp the meat of it, you know? And it was like, for me doing the research, it was relearning the material, you know? So it's a lot. It's a lot. I like what M&L Odell says here. She says, they are emotional shapeshifters. Yes, they are emotional shapeshifters. Yes. Kim Matthew says intermittent reinforcement is intentionally used by the perpetrator, and the victim or target gets trauma bonded. I'm so tired. Trauma bonded. Very sad. It is very sad. It's a cycle. It's an ugly cycle, right, Kim Matthew? Yeah. All right, let me skim for people I haven't gotten to. Based Afro, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Adams, hello and welcome. Good to see you. Adams says, what happens when sacrifices in nearly couples manifests the relationship? What's your take psychologically? What happens when sacrifices in new couples Manifests. Okay, please break that down for me, atoms. Please post in the comment section. If you break that down, I'm happy to answer that question. I can't tease that apart. Okay. Leslie A. Oh, I'm going to add you up here for you, girl, while I take a sip. Excuse me. Okay. Leslie A, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Leslie A says, thank you for this information. You're welcome. It's so hard to trust people, especially new friends. It makes sense to keep them at a distance for a while. Yes, it does. It really does. Sometimes you have to. The iconic intuitive. Hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. She says, wow, we are all into something with this light side and dark side. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Amy 999 says family members are predators too. Yep. Star Child, Marin Azul Spices Herbal Education. Hello and welcome back tonight. Thank you, Anime Girl 16091. I appreciate you. Okay, we're gonna keep moving. Thank you. Yes, I am. Yeah. My publisher is New Harbinger Publications, and the book was written for adolescents, and it's a little bit of a journey through my upbringing as someone who didn't just have one culture, one ethnicity, but had multiple cultures and ethnicities, and had to really try to figure out, navigate the world, including relationships. So the book is for adolescents, but you never know. You guys keep pushing me. I may just write another book and make another proposal to the company. We'll see. Thank you. No, it's not. I need a merch shop, don't I? Man, I don't. Yeah. I bought this shirt. I wish I could give you guys where I bought it. I think the store is now closed. But I bought it I believe I bought it in California when I was there over 8 years ago for a conference. And it was some kind of little cute, boho kind of a store. That's my kind of style. And so I'm like, I want that shirt. So I don't think they're there in California anymore, but I love this shirt. I'll never get rid of it. Daryl Harris, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Always glad when you can join us. Seed Kane, I hope that's correct. Hello, welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat. Raymond Vincent Garcia, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, and hope you and your wife are doing well. I know you've mentioned her dynamics with her family in the past, so hope she's doing well and you are too. Glad to see you in the chat tonight. Thank you, Jessica J. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Mel, you're welcome. Yeah, me too, right? I'm so glad you can come, and hopefully you can come every Friday and Saturday when I'm live. I'm going to keep doing them live every weekend. Hopefully I'm well enough to keep it up. It's like my health has to stay with me so that I can keep doing this with you guys. I'm just taking full advantage of it, Mel says something wise. Mel says, always stay alert. It's a different world. It feels that way. 100%. It does. And it's an eerie, scary feeling sometimes, right? Yeah. All right, guys, let me keep moving. Sigma Praxis Synergy. Hello and welcome tonight. Always glad to see you. Phil Bradley, good to see you, my friend. Welcome. That's a cool way to say hello. Akon, hello and welcome. Good to see you back tonight. Akon says, hi, Tamara. Hello. I've dealt with people in the legal system and counselors that misused trust, such as betrayal. Yeah, all the time. It happens all the time. And you just want to ask, why are you in this field again? You know what I mean? Lana Love, hello and welcome. Always glad to see you in the chat box. Thank you for the positivity. Oops, bear with me. Actually, Jovial, thank you so much for that. Actually, Jovial says, absolutely adept, Tamara. They definitely cloak themselves behind titles, which makes it even harder to know who to trust. This is saddening. Education and status should be used for good. I agree. Well said. I'm going to star your comment. I'm also going to star Fairy Girls Dabs. Yes. Yes, I agree with you. Okay. Miss Janine, I can't sign off without saying hi to you. Glad you can make it tonight. Miss Janine says, I had an uncle that groomed me by pretending to like me, by giving me, small gifts. Fortunately, he passed and couldn't bother me anymore. Thanks for helping to understand those. Yes, you're welcome. And I'm sorry that you had an uncle like that. It's terrifying when you have a family member that engages in this behavior, right? Yeah. 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 I had a client that went through that a couple years ago. I won't tell the story this time because it's going to be too long. But I will share a story with you guys next live chat. I'm sorry, I'm trying to go through these comments. Sometimes I have to stop and read because they're just so funny and cute. Based Afro says narcissistic personalities have powerful delusions of moral superiority, that they are just inherently above you. Yeah, that is true. I agree with that. They are. Yeah. Yeah. They were born better than you, you know? Neat Hodges, hello and welcome. Good to see you in tonight's live chat and welcome to the channel. I don't remember seeing you. Nate, I hope I'm saying that correct. Hodges says, hey, Tamara, I love how deep and specific your videos are each time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad. I try to give you guys what you would get if you were at a conference with me, or, some of what you would get if you were in a class with me. I think it's just helpful. Why not give back? You know what I mean? So thank you for saying that. I'm so glad that that's the way that you're taking this. That's awesome. T Bunny Shy says the narcissistic parents need us to need them. It can be crippling until we self-differentiate and do that well. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yes. Denico Young, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. Welcome to the channel. It's so good to have you live tonight. Denico Young says, my stepfather got my brother wife pregnant. That's so bad. I'm so sorry. That's traumatizing. You know what I mean? My mother has known since the little boy was 2. He's 7 now. My heart aches for my brother. I just cut them off. I can't do them anymore. I understand. Oh my God. I would need therapy to deal with why I had to walk away. You know what I mean? Like, that is a tough dynamic. That's a tough dynamic. That's all I'm going to say about that. My God. Thank you for sharing that. I think some people need to know that that's an actual dynamic. I see a family that has that dynamic, and it's really hard to just kind of swallow that dynamic, All right, guys. Let's sign off. I wish I could just continue reading. All of you are so great. I'm going to say hello to you. Okay, I'm glad I didn't skip over you. Somebody's screaming out, please. Okay, so Campsite Z, hello and welcome. Good to see you tonight. I will answer your question. Campsite Z says, will a person with antisocial tendencies, if they get caught BSing, lying, and are called out, will they swear out of aggression? If we're talking about a person who has antisocial tendencies or behaviors, or they are engaging in pathological lying, they will do anything. I hope that answers the question. They will do anything. They will curse, they will scream, they will cry, they will get aggressive, they will be loud, they will just scream bloody murder. And they will also scream and make it look like everybody's done something wrong to them, because the real guilty one is sometimes the loudest one, right? And so if that's the answer that you were looking for, there you have it. And I've seen this in the past in different settings I've been in, when there's a pathological liar and they've been caught in a bind and in a lie. Sometimes they will act, cool and collected. Sometimes they will act very nonchalant and distant. And other times they will scream and cry and throw things and say you're treating them mean, and saying that they had a bad week this week and they didn't need this from you. All in an attempt to derail, to derail the focus, which is that they are guilty of a crime. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. Guys, I love you so much. Please know that I do. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for sharing the channel, supporting the channel, being wonderful in the chat box. I am considering allowing viewer posts, which means that I will open a section on my channel where you guys can post things throughout the week for us to chat about, for us to give our ideas about, to engage with, right? And then I, of course, will oversee that to make sure everything is healthy and modulated or regulated. But I love the communication that's on the channel, and I do want to keep that growing. So, stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday night, wonderful Sunday. I will see you next week. Love you so much. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye, guys.